Hello, I'm Laura Lewis. Welcome to Renewable Energy class. So this will be suitable for any GCSE students taking GCSE physics on any of the exam boards, so OCR, EdXL, AQA, anything. Okay, it's even IB, International Baccalaureate, will be okay for this. They will ask about something about renewable energy. Okay, let's look at our lesson aims. So, first one, an overview of the different types of renewable energy. There's quite a few different types out there. Number two, an understanding how each of the renewable energy options works. And number three, a discussion of the benefits and drawbacks of each renewable energy type. So I apologise for my throat, a bit of a sore throat. Okay, number one, wind power. So at the time of recording, the UK have said that they're going to put a lot of money into wind power. Okay, so by 2030, the UK should be running mostly on wind, especially it's called offshore wind. So wind turbines which are in the ocean, so they're not on land. So let's have a look at how this works then. So wind power. So obviously you need wind. So when the wind is blowing, the force rotates the blades around. So the wind comes in and rotates the blades. So the blades are actually at a certain angle for the optimum rotation here. Okay, so you actually want the blades to rotate fairly quickly. All right. So these things are about 100-foot tall. So yeah, it's fastest growing source in the world. Yeah, especially the UK. It's from the US, but the world's the UK. Yep, definitely the fastest growing now. Time of recording. And so the blades are connected to the blades are connected to a turbine. Okay, which is like a big fan in a way, which turns a generator. So a generator is a big. So you can probably see it in here. So it's a big cord of wire around a magnet. When the cord of wire is moved around the magnet, it generates an electric current. So lots of things working with electrical generators. So it's a cord of wire around a magnet, and any relative motion of the magnet or the wire would cause electrical current to flow. And the faster obviously it goes, the more electrical current is produced. That's why the faster the wind, the more electricity is produced. Okay, so obviously you can see that there's advantages and disadvantages of this straight away. So advantage, let's start with the good, produces no carbon dioxide. So once they're up and running, they don't produce any carbon dioxide. They're very low maintenance, number two. So again, they don't often go wrong, often don't need someone to go maintain them all the time. They could have damage, but it's not very likely. They're quite big, quite sturdy. Hopefully they don't cause it damage. Negatives. So some people say that if you're near one, you get some noise. I mean, I've never been close enough to know that, but they say that they can cause a lot of noise. Visual pollution. So some people don't like what they look like. I think they're quite attractive, but some people don't like what they look like. This is the big one, obviously. If there's no wind, there's no electricity. It sounds obvious, but you need to put them in a windy place. So off the shores of Britain, there's especially the North Sea, there's lots of wind. So you put the wind turbine off there, okay, off the shore, rather than somewhere. I live in the southeast, so on land here we don't get too much wind, and it's not really a good place to put them. Highlands of Scotland have lots of wind turbines, so anywhere windy obviously would be a good place to put them. But yeah, you could say they're unreliable. So they need a certain amount of wind. It doesn't have to be really windy, but they need a certain amount of wind to work. Okay, solar panel. So solar power, there's two different types. First one is a solar heating panel. So they absorb infrared radiation to heat water. So they're quite kind of basic. So if it can get hot enough, it can turn it to steam and turn a turbine and cause a generator to turn to produce power. But if they have quite a hot, nice sunny day. But otherwise, they're just used to heat water. So a lot of times people have them on roofs to provide them with hot water. So the cold water comes in, goes around the pipes, and it comes out nice and hot for your shower or your bath. Okay, so that's a solar panel, or solar heating panel. Its full name. Also have a solar cell. So these are very different. Okay, they're made of a certain material called semiconductor, which is silicon, which has been doped, so it's been injected with other elements. Okay, so it's been injected with other elements that actually, when the sun shines on them, it creates a current, electrical current, and that creates it creates electricity. So it creates a current to flow, electricity to go through. So it's a small one, can power like sort of small like electric motors, and can power a lot of like toys and things. But obviously, a big solar arrays, like you find in obviously hot sunny countries, can often power villages and some of the cities. So you can imagine there's quite a lot of potential there. Okay, so benefits and drawbacks. Pretty much like the wind, produces no carbon dioxide. So this is obviously the important thing here, is that the fossil fuels produce carbon dioxide, which you don't want. The renewables don't produce carbon dioxide. Yeah, potential infinite energy supply. Exactly. So many locations you can think of putting these. The solar cells, especially. Deserts, the moon. Okay, a lot of. So yeah, if you were on the moon, you probably have solar panel on your vehicle, because there's a lot of sun on the moon. You wouldn't think that, but it does. Obviously, houses on their own can generate their own electricity and hot water. So yeah, you see these on people's roofs. Downside, really, only downside, manufacturing installation is costly. You have to put an initial investment into it to kind of get back this nice renewable energy. But yeah, there's lots of potential for this. Manufacture cost of solar cells goes down every year. So again, this could be changing over time, but how much solar cells we use it will go up in the future, most definitely. Okay, hydroelectric power, actually used quite often already. Hydroelectric in certain countries to have lots of lakes and waterfalls, like Switzerland. So rainwater or water occurring naturally in a river or a lake can be stored in a tank called a reservoir. Reservoir to store the water. So at the front of the reservoir, so at the front of the river, the waterfall, the dam's built, and you need to put a small channel for it where the water can flow through it. And as the water flows through, so you kind of let it in, and it falls against gravity. So you're not pumping it. It's because it's high and it's going down. As the water flows through, it rotates again, right, blades in a turbine. So really, that's like the wind turbine. And that turns a generator, and that produces electricity. So again, it's very simple, and a simple concept. So the height of the water is called the head of water. That's what that's talking about. So it's the height of water. The higher the water, the more potential power you can get out, because it will fall faster with gravity. Again, similar advantage, produces no carbon dioxide, and also creates water reserves. Yeah, so actually, if you're holding the water back, it can create a water supply for a local village or local town. Okay, so you have water reserves in England, but they're not usually for hydroelectric. They're just a water supply. You probably tell that a dam would cost a lot of money to build. Obviously, there's huge infrastructure involved in this. These are hundreds of meters tall. Okay, and yeah, if they go wrong, can cause flooding of surrounding communities and landscapes. Yeah, so it has been cases long time ago, 100 years ago, where people built dams, not necessarily just for hydroelectric, but dams, and there was an earthquake, it damaged the dam, and it flooded like their local towns and things. So you have to be careful where you build them, so they can't be near earthquakes and things. And also you have to make sure, obviously, that they are going to stand up to anything sort of that could damage them, and away from like towns and villages. So Wavepower. So probably tell that there's quite a lot of waves around the UK's coast, so it's probably quite a good option that we could use here as well. So they're buoyant, so they sort of float on the water, and the wave hits them, creates a rocking motion, so it sort of rocks back and forth. And it's all axle connected to the generator, so it means it can spin and it can rock. So again, it's got a generator in it that when it's moved around, it creates electricity. So sort of it rocks, and the motion creates electrical current in the generator. Okay, so it doesn't spin around; it sort of rocks, like until the waves coming in, it rocks it. You can imagine like a little rubber duck sitting on the ocean, like bobs up and down, doesn't it? It rocks. It's the same principle. So probably tell you again, certain places will benefit more than others. So some places have got lots of waves. So the west coast, where people surf, lots of waves. Okay, so it'd be good down like Cornwall, Devon. This would be good. Also good in other places where you can get many waves. Okay, obviously we're going to get much power. Again, produces no carbon dioxide. Ideal with island countries like us. Plenty of water. Downsides: expensive to build. Okay, again you have to build it first. And lots of buildings and cable needed, may spoil the coastline. So again, you build these probably in places where people visit quite a lot, like the Devon and Cornwall I was talking about. And people may think, doesn't look very particularly attractive, having lots of cables and buildings everywhere at the coastline. But again, it's a bit of opinion. So also, you need somewhere there's some waves, don't you, as well? I can say so it may be a little bit unreliable. You may need lots of waves. Okay, tidal power used in this country as well. So you need somewhere with a tide. So a tide's not caused by the weather. So let's go back to wave for a minute. So waves are caused by the wind mostly. They can be caused by other things, but it's mostly weather contingent. So like in the big ocean, lots of storms and things to create waves. But tides are different. You can get a tide in the river as well sometimes. So the Thames is a tide, and it's caused by the position of the sun and the moon relative to the earth. So it's the moon and the sun pulling on the water and the earth. So it doesn't depend on weather. It depends on location. Tidal. So some places have a very extreme tide. So you have 2 tides a day. So, 2 high tides and 2 low tides a day. So again, it's similar to hydroelectric. We're not like forcing water through, kind of allowing a natural way of it going through a system. So probably this thing is called a barrage, a tidal barrage. So separate moving water. So the high tides on one side, you have to kind of build it at the right time in the right place, and low tide on the other. So when the tide's high enough on one side, channels, so sort of like holes in the barrage, open, allowing water to move through. Okay, so water goes through the holes. The flowing water rotates, blows on a turbine, which in turn rotates a generator to produce electricity. So yeah, there's places that obviously have very high tides can make use of this, sort of on the coast or in a river. Again, produces no carbon dioxide like all the renewables. Yeah, barrage can double as a bridge. Also, it can use to sort of hold the tide back as well in some places. So it can be used for something else, other instructors too. Again, very costly to build. You probably may have heard of that, the Thames Barrage. Okay, they cost a lot of money to build. Yeah, a few areas are suitable for design. So it depends on the area. And obviously, it's quite important. May impact flow of sewage out to sea. So lots of infrastructure has to be sorted out around this. So that's a good geography link. There lots of infrastructure sorted out. Geothermal, interesting. Not often great for the UK because we don't have lots of hot rocks underneath us, but good in other countries. I went to Lanzarote once, and where magma sits really close underneath the surface of the earth. So if you pour water down a hole, steam comes up. Okay, so if we get geysers and things would be good for that. So like America, like Yellowstone would be good for geothermal power. So it's producing radioactive activity deep underground, and also magma sitting close to the surface. Okay, like volcanic areas. So radioactivity causes thermal energy. This is used to heat the water. And what happens here is that cold water is actually pumped down, goes along here, and hot water comes up, and it turns to steam where it's so hot. Okay, driven by the heat down here. Turns a turbine. Okay, again, it's like over and over again, same thing, isn't it? It feels like probably. Which has a generator, which produces electrical power. Okay, and then the hot water has to go and cool down, and goes back down again. Okay, a little cycle happens. So again, produces no carbon dioxide, potentially infinite energy supply. I mean, some places have got very reliable heat under the ground. Only work countries, so downside, only in countries where volcanic activity is high yet. So everywhere can't do this. Geothermal activity unreliable, may die down. So in places the volcanoes they don't erupt all the time. They don't also have geothermal energy. And sometimes if it's radioactive material underground cooling, I mean, this is when I say radioactive, it's natural radioactivity from the rocks. It's not humans have dumped radiation down there. It's natural radioactivity. And so the water may become contaminated. I mean, we're not going to drink it anyway, but it may become contaminated, and you may have to dispose of it safely, because that'll be a concern. That could be a cost problem there of actually disposing of the radioactive water safely. Okay, so let's have a look at the UK in 1990 and 2019. So obviously not gone right away through 2020 yet. So 1990, you've got mostly coal being used, a little tiny bit of gas. Nuclear made up a bit of a significant slice. Wind, solar, hydro. This is 1990, so this is a little bit after I was born. Okay. Only a little tiny slice. So look at the renewables, that they weren't that common back then. So yeah, even in my lifetime, it's changed quite a lot about what's common to use to actually power a country. Okay, so this is the UK only. The other countries would be a bit different. Okay. So imports, that means that you've imported electricity, it was being produced somewhere else, okay, so in another country. So you can see how much it's changed. So coal, very tiny slither now, very little coal is used, because it produces a lot of pollution, a lot of carbon dioxide. We don't want to use much coal anymore, so that's why they've really tried to eliminate it. Okay, gas is used quite a lot though. Yeah, a lot of power stations now use gas for, natural gas. Nuclear, probably a little bit smaller. Some of them have been closed down. We're talking about opening or making new ones. Wind, solar, hydro. See, this is the one that has expanded the most, isn't it? Like lots of renewables, and it's projected in the future that we will go to even more renewables. It's changing even now. It's getting bigger. Biomass waste. Okay, we haven't talked about that in particular. Biomass waste is burning either crops that are actually grown to burn, or it's actually food waste. So, for example, lots of rotten fruit that can't be eaten. It's burnt for biomass waste. That would produce carbon dioxide. It's renewable, but it produces carbon dioxide biomass. Okay, so it's a little bit of a snapshot of the UK. See how much it's all changed. So it's again a bit of a link to geography about changing energy needs of the country. So what we're going to do is just go back and do an overview. So we looked at an overview of the different types of renewable energy. So we looked at each different type. Okay, so you've got very quick wind, solar. Remember, two different types of solar. Hydroelectric, wave, tidal. These two, remember the differences between these two. Weather dependent, not weather dependent, sun and the moon. Geothermal, depends where it is. Okay, a little bit go back. Understanding how each of the renewable energy options work. So most of them use turbines. So wind uses a turbine, hydroelectric uses a turbine, and a generator. Wind turbine generator, hydro turbine generator, wave turbine generator, tidal turbine generator, even geothermal turbine generator. Only what's different is the solar. Okay, so that's what you need to make note of, isn't it? Is that solar, you need to look at a bit closely, take screenshots of, make notes, is that's one that doesn't work quite the same way. And discussion of the benefits and drawbacks of each renewable energy type. So in the little box, there's obviously advantage, disadvantage. Okay, sometimes some of them are kind of common sense, aren't they? Like there's no wind, there's no electricity, so unreliable is a good word for that. All of them, in the same video, they don't produce any carbon dioxide, because if you remember that carbon dioxide leads to climate change, so it's very important that we have low carbon dioxide sources of energy, especially now. We want to keep emissions that low, so we don't contribute too much to climatic change. Okay, so that's why there's a big drive for renewable energy. Obviously, it's a good thing because it just reduces all lots of pollution in general, doesn't it? You don't want a polluted planet anyway. Obviously, lots of damage to wildlife and the environment. Okay, so we don't want to do that anyway. Okay, so some things are, obviously there's monetary things, about things that cost money to build. Lots of these things initially cost money to build them. Okay, it's a cost, but once they're running, that they will run for a long time. Okay, so think about it. in terms of, yeah, a bit of link to science and geography there, but building infrastructure. But also other benefits is that obviously these projects could actually give lots of opportunities to people for their jobs and things as well. Okay, so yeah, because at the time of the video, like I said, that there's lots of emphasis on renewable energy in the news at the moment. So that's worth looking at as well, you know, the news around the renewable energy, because it's changing all the time. Okay, so thank you for attending the class. I'm Laura Lewis, and I'll see you soon in another video. Thank you. Goodbye.